Chapter 243 to 245. In the form realm. In the area reserved for training, without laboratories or other facilities, two grown men walked through the immense white esplanade while the biggest and weird of them showed the other the place. Here we are, Trunks, my private dimension where time passes slower. Perfect for more time to train, do homework, watch TV series to prevent your family from spoiling you. And much more. Broly said to Trunks, as if he was showing his bachelor floor to his alternate son. Wow, awesome. It's like there is no end. Said Trunks. He never imagined that Broly would have a private dimension like this one, although at this point nothing surprised him. Yes, whatever you say, but take off your shoes. You are dirtying the floor. Said Broly, very angry, showing great anger towards Trunks. The same anger and displeasure that he had shown towards him the first time he met him and discovered that he was the son of Vegeta and his wife. A sudden change in attitude that Trunks quickly identified as a danger to his life. Sorry, excuse me, I didn't know that. It's a joke. Do you intend to train without shoes? You have to take care of your feet, Broly said, slapping Trunks on the back, showing with a smile that this had been a joke. Ah. Haha, okay, that was funny. Trunks replied after feeling that his testicles returned to their original place. Obviously he hadn't found it funny at all, he was still shaking in fear. An absolute failure to ease the tension between them that Broly had no choice but to accept. I wanted to make a joke ease the tension between us, but instead it had the opposite effect. Anyway, let's get down to business. I have to at least train you until you're on a similar level to Goku and Vegeta, but first of all, I have to check how strong you are to know what you lack, so you will fight against me until you have no energy left. Don't reserve anything, otherwise this exercise wouldn't make sense. Otherwise it won't be possible for you to defeat that bastard. Give your best from minute 0. Broly said, indicating to Trunks with his tail that he should attack him, that unlike other occasions he didn't do it in a mocking way, he was being very serious about. A seriousness and change of attitude on the part of Broly that forced Trunks to leave behind his fears and doubts. Broly hadn't taken him to this secluded and unknown place to kill him, for whatever reason he wanted to make him stronger. And Trunks couldn't miss that opportunity, he just shouldn't. Okay, Broly-san, I will give everything, Trunks said with great determination as he transformed into Super Saiyan. Obviously this wasn't the normal Super Saiyan that he used the first time he came to the past. Of course it wasn't about the imperfect and muscular transformation that he learned with his father when he came to the past. And neither was the Super Saiyan 3 that Goku this time had no chance to learn. His appearance was similar to that of a Super Saiyan 2. However, it wasn't a Super Saiyan 2. His hair was more golden and spiky than a normal Super Saiyan 2, the amount of aura he gave off was much more intense and dense. But above all, his power was the most different. Despite not being transformed, he was even more powerful than a Super Saiyan 3. And that power and appearance even surprised Broly. Fu. Attack. Therefore, the combat began. A combat in which Trunks with his sword tried to mortally wound Broly. A Trunks who fought with a power, speed, control and imagination that would even blow Vegeta and Goku by the wayside if they fought with the same kind of power level. However, no matter how much he tries to hit Broly, it was impossible, his tail always got between him and his sword. So hopelessly, Trunks was unable to do anything except drain all his energy trying to uselessly reach for Broly's neck, which didn't even move from the beginning of the fight. Terrafor, 12 minutes later. Damn! Yelled Trunks on his knees and holding onto his sword as he finished his transformation. He didn't even have the strength to take another step, much less to maintain that powerful transformation. The only thing he had the energy to do was curse his humiliating defeat and his inability to even force Broly to take him seriously in this fight. One more defeat in his long history of failures and half-victories that wounded his already damaged soul. But Broly didn't see it that way, he was quite satisfied with what he saw. I don't usually give compliments to anyone, especially to Vegeta derivatives, but with you I am forced to make an exception. You have achieved something that none of the others non-Broly Saiyans have achieved on their own. Surpass the Super Saiyan 2 in a stable way, and not by a little margin, you are very close to reaching the maximum limit of the multiplier x 500. You may even have more talent than Gohan. Bulma's genes have favored you, it's not surprising that in the manga Goku in Super Saiyan 3 was scared when he felt Trunks' ki. If he hadn't resorted to his divine energy, Trunks would have easily defeated him. Even Trunks fights better than Goku now. If all half Saiyans trained like pure Saiyans, they would be incredible. It's been 10 years. I've been training every day as if my life depended on it, Trunks answered, accepting with some pride that compliment as he tried to get up off the ground. I see, in that area you are better than Gohan. I congratulate you, you have earned my respect, answered Broly, who partly criticized that since Gohan had become a father he had loosened his training a lot. And Pam. Broly sent Trunks back to the ground with a blow of his tail and said, we can end the fight now, get up. Was that hit really necessary? Fuck. Trunks thought somewhat angry as he tried to get up again that day. He had already lost, acknowledged his defeat, he had no energy, and he attacked him by surprise. It's evident that he still hates him. Or is he like that with everyone? Yes, it was. And yes, I can read minds, so be careful with your thoughts, Broly said to scare Trunks a bit. As always, his educational trick was 1 carrot and 2 sticks. I'll keep it in mind, Broly-san. Then, have I passed your test? Trunks asked as he tried to empty his mind just in case. I would like to say no and then tell you it was a joke, but it would be stupid. Yes, of course you have approved, with great margin. Thanks to your talent, surely inherited from your mother, and effort, you will avoid a lot of time and suffering during your training. Time that we can dedicate to other tasks, Broly said as he tightly clenched his fist. A part of him still hurt to praise him due to his genealogy. Really? What does the training consist of? Trunks asked, a little more excited than before, but watching in case Broly hit him again without warning. The first thing of all is to teach you my technique of body multiplication. You already saw it in action a decade ago. This technique uses your S cells as fuel to create permanent clones, and these clones can only be created with perfectly activatable S cells. In your case, you have practically mastered the 500 units, so you will be able to perfect this technique quickly. I think it is not necessary to mention to you what are the benefits of having this ability always activated right. Broly said, using his classic PowerPoint to illustrate the explanations of his abilities. No need not, sir. I know them well, answered Trunks as if he were a recruit on the first day of instruction. He obviously knew the advantages of this ability, as he saw how Gohan used it during his fight against Cell while his mother explained everything about it. Perfect, less saliva to waste. The next thing I'm going to show you is this. Try to feel it, said Broly while. Apparently he did nothing. For 1 minute. Until Trunks had to raise his hand to ask. Broly-san, are you playing a joke on me again? I don't feel anything at all, said Trunks, who once again thought that Broly didn't want to train him seriously. What you haven't been able to feel is divine energy. A type of energy of higher quality than the ki that mortals use, and that obviously gives a lot of advantage in combat and in daily life. A type of energy that will be very useful when facing another enemy that use divine energy like Black Goku, since only divine energy user can sense divine energy, answered Broly, showing that he was serious although he liked to make his alternate stepson's doubt. However, that and many other of his doubts were resolved after knowing this information. It's true. When Black fighted seriously, I was unable to feel his ki. How did you? Che. I'm not done yet. I will also teach you the Kaioken. It's very useful combined with body multiplication, apart from other auxiliary skills such as putting a washing machine. In addition, if you are able to surprise me, I will give you a great gift. A privilege that until now only Gohan has been able to obtain, Broly said, interrupting the unnecessary and easy-to-answer questions as he gave Trunks new incentives for completing this training. Only Gohan? Why are you so generous all of a sudden? Trunks asked, somewhat moved. He didn't understand why precisely he deserved this honor. Especially when everyone knows how Broly is like. It's obvious. I can't let my wife's alternate son go around the world looking and fighting like a beggar. What kind of alternate stepfather would I be? Said Broly in his Tsundere mode. What was the reason? Broly didn't really hate him that much, but he had to keep playing his role. He had promised Bulma that he would seriously train Trunks to make him as strong as he could. He also wanted to replace Vegeta as his father figure, creating a good bond during the training. And above all, was something more or less necessary for his plan. Or at least to disguise his true plan. Ha. Thank you very much, Broly-san, said Trunks, who laughed genuinely for the first time since he was alone with Broly in the form realm. He never expected to see some, supposedly, cute side of Broly. In fact, he even thought for a moment that Broly was actually someone quite kind instead of the cruel and dangerous psychopath ogre he pretended to be, and that everyone except his mother had described. You have finally laughed naturally. Perfect. Broly said, smiling just like Trunks, but suddenly now erase that smile from your face. From now on the pain begins. Suddenly Broly erased the wide smile from his face to become the incarnation of Gunnery Sergeant Hartman himself. An abrupt change of attitude that scared Trunks again, who withdrew from his mind everything he had thought of Broly a few moments ago. "Don't panic. It is part of the ritual," said Broly, paraphrasing one of the best fictional teachers. "Yes. Okay. Right." Trunks replied, who was starting to get used to that kind of schizophrenia that characterized Broly when he talked to him. "Maybe." "No you aren't," replied Broly while reading his thoughts. It was clear that he wasn't fully focused now. "Can we start now? Please?" begged Trunks, who wanted to end this tense situation as soon as possible. Taking a beating from Broly seemed even preferable to him than all the shit. Back to planet Earth. In the house where everyone gathered for parties and other random events. After the incidental barbecue, some began to train, others to take a nap, others continued eating, and some had many doubts to resolve. "I understand. Therefore, that handsome boy is your son in another timeline, but you had him with Vegeta Jr.'s dad because you didn't know dad in that timeline. Does that make him my half-brother?" asked Bra, which tried to understand this strange case and familiar problem. "Yes, something like that," answered Bulma, that naturally didn't feel comfortable explaining this strange situation to her elementary school daughter. "So, does that also make him my half-brother?" Vegeta Jr. asked, who like Bra tried to understand what was happening. "Yes. Something like that. I died on this timeline and your father had a child with Bulma." "Okay." Yam replied to his son, showing as usual her violent and jealous side when that matter aroused. Something complicated and messy to understand, but the crucial question that Vegeta Jr. and Bra wanted to know, especially Bra, was, "Then, that makes Vegeta Jr. and me. It makes you very important children. Stop bothering your mothers and go bother the cat, who never does anything, and when he does something it is a bad or stupid thing," said Broly, forcibly changing the subject to not continue delving into this taboo. "I can hear you, bastard," shouted Beerus, who from the comfort of the hammock in which he was stretched out protested for the accusations that seemed to be directed at him. "I know, that is precisely why I said it. Get the hint, fucking meanie," shouted Broly, showing once again his unconditional hatred towards the gods and his uselessness. "And what are you doing here? Weren't you training Vegeta's and Bulma's son?" Beerus said, asking that question in the most hurtful way possible. Obviously on purpose. Proof of this was his broad and malevolent smile. A poison-laden question that Broly dodged with another accusation. "His name is Trunks, and I'm training him right now with another of my bodies while you are doing nothing. Shouldn't you be investigating the identity of the evil Kai?" "I've already done something. We have called Shin, he will come at any moment with information," replied Beerus, satisfied by the arduous and complicated work he had delegated to Whis, which he had delegated to Shin. "Therefore, you have done less than nothing," said Broly, openly showing his infinite pessimism upon hearing that Shin was the one in charge. Would Shin really be able to do something right for the first time? Soon, very soon they would know. Right now. "Pardon me, do you have a moment, Lord Beerus?" asked Shin, who teleported directly to Bulma and Broly's garden. "Oh. It's the Supreme Kai," Goku yelled, who stopped training with Vegeta for now upon seeing a familiar face. "Yes, of course, you can come in too, don't be shy," Broly said sarcastically, hinting that his house was like a hippie commune lately. Everyone met there and even lived there from time to time, be they humans, aliens, time travelers, useless gods. Surely these were the negative effects of being an altruistic good host. Well, we apologize for making you come all the way out just to find us," some Kai was said, apologizing for giving some work to a god, something they weren't used to. "Hey. I've got something I want to ask you. Are you aware of any gods near your vicinity who may believe in particularly aggressive and extreme ideologies?" asked Beerus, revealing the reason why Shin's nap had been interrupted. Extreme ideologies?" Shin said, trying to think about what they had asked him. He hadn't used his neurons for a long time and was having a hard time starting to think just like a 19th century computer. "Great, you haven't even explained to him the reason he came here for. You're a fucking genius. We suspect that a Kai has usurped Goku's body, has used the time rings and is now killing humans and Kai, and you didn't even explain the situation to him until now. Surely Shin has brought us very important information about the problem we have thanks to this." "I have never seen such professionalism," said Broly, using a terrifying and overwhelming sarcasm that could destroy the universe if it took physical form. "What? Is this true? Shin screamed when he found out what was the reason behind that difficult question. And at the same time Beerus, who tried to turn a deaf ear to Broly's criticism, kept asking for Shin's collaboration. Yes. We are looking for an individual who may think that the extinction of the human species is a positive thing. Something along those lines. Ring any bells? A god that detests humans? Now that you mention it. That does remind me of a god I'm acquainted with. Shin said, who with some difficulty tried to remember if he knew of any kai that matched that description, until he finally found someone. Ahhhhh. Now I remember. Remind you of someone? Beerus asked, not expecting such efficiency from Shin. Although on the one hand he was happy about this, if Shin was right, he could shut Broly's mouth for a few hours. He was already tired of his destructive criticisms about him and his co-workers. Who is it? Asked Whis, also surprised like Beerus. Everyone gathered there eagerly awaited the answer from the almost none-respected Supreme Kaioshin. Would be so easy to discover the culprit of all these crimes? Of course it would be the best for everyone, except for the criminal. However, Amalal Broly was the one who expected that answer the most, so much that he had even stopped reading Shin's mind to avoid spoiling himself. Come on Shin. You've already been influenced by me at this point. All my criticisms, always constructive ones, must have had some effect on you. You should be able to perfectly match Zamasu with that description. I refuse to believe that someone who has achieved such a high position in the hierarchy of the universe if not for the absolute convenience of the script written by Akira Toriyama. Come on, for once in your life, don't disappoint me. Even though I don't expect anything from you, Broly thought as he crossed his fingers and tail. And Shin's answer was none other Tan Kibito. He has a tendency to say some discriminatory things about humans and an absolute disappointment. It's Zamasu. Damn muscle abortion addicted to expired LSD. How can you be so subnormal? You talked to him months ago. How can you not suspect about him after what he said? Fucking Munger with extra chromosomes. Shouted Broly, showing such immeasurable anger that transformed into true legendary Super Saiyan God full power beyond. Something that scared and very much to all those who were eating and talking quietly in the garden. Plof. Plof. PLO. Clash. Plaf. Pom. And not only that, due to his violent aura even the birds that flew through the sky fell to the ground. However, that wasn't the first time that Broly became this kind of super angry monster, and surely wouldn't be the last time. Therefore Bulma, the one who was more used to that, tried to continue the conversation while putting a shirt on her husband so that he wouldn't be half naked in a meeting. Zamasu? Who is that Zamasu? A Kai from Universe 10, he's supposed to be serving as apprentice of the Supreme Kai. But, how do you know that I saw him recently? Said Shin after recovering his voice after his almost heart attack suffered due to Broly's intense bloodlust focused on him. It's true Broly. How do you know about that? Ached Whis with some concern. There are various means by which Broly could have known that, such as reading Shin's mind, using his uncanny ability to know things or because among other things I put on you years ago a spy skill to know what you every time. Shouted Broly, which of all the possible options he could have alluded to, explained the most disturbing and criminal of all. Something possibly caused by his anger, or maybe another reason. But no matter why he did it, the fact is, that statement made everyone's hair stand on end, without transforming into Super Saiyan. Why did you do something like that? Shin protested, feeling completely outraged for obvious reasons. Since when had Broly been spying on him and to what extent had he been spying on him? Has he seen him naked? Has he seen him sleeping during work hours? It was impossible for him to stop thinking about that. Exactly. That is gross immorality and a violation of privacy. Not to mention that you are spying on Supreme Kai. And do you want me not to suspect that you aren't planning anything suspicious? Said Beerus, who finally found the perfect excuse to continue accusing Broly of crimes against the gods and divine laws. And all thanks to Shin's misfortune. He is undoubtedly useless, but his uselessness was being useful to him for a change. But before blatant crime charges became more popular and doubts about Broly's intentions and possibly questions about others' privacy crimes continued, Bulma came to her husband's rescue by saying, "Calm down, I guess Broly has a good explanation for why he did that. Right? Of course, everything I do is for one reason and I have two reasons. The first reason is that this idiot usually puts himself in danger, and since he's weakling has a high probability of dying, and if Beerus dies he dies, and if Beerus dies Whis would disappear from this universe. And although in the event that Whis disappeared I would have one less freeloading in my house, I would also lose one of the few people I know that is able to use his brain correctly. And believe me, I need people like him by my side. I'm afraid that I will be infected with the idiocy that everyone release, except Bulma and Gohan, of course, Broly said with a quite offensive argument for almost everyone, although in reality his speech was very difficult to counter. However, at the same time an argument that others liked, like Bulma, Gohan and of course Whis, HaHaHa. It's a pretty compelling argument. And what is the second reason? See if for just once in his life Shin is able to do something useful or at least regular to give him this fucking award, said Broly, showing an award about him patting Shin's head as if he were a dog, to disintegrate it, at the same time, but after today he has already been banned from the competition. Forever. Some criticism, constructive criticism, that greatly hurt the already battered pride of the poor and pitiful Supreme Kai, which tried to defend himself. Broly. I think you're exaggerating. Guessing that it is Zamasu based on that description isn't so easy. That's not easy. Fuck. Look at it for yourself, Broly shouted, contesting Shin's arguments as he projected once more with his third eye everything that happened during the training match between Universe 7 and 10. A projection that showed without a doubt that Zamasu had proposed that they should kill all humans and other mortal races. An incontestable empirical evidence that showed that this guy was extremely suspicious and Shin extremely stupid. So obvious that no one tried to defend him no matter how hard they tried to find some argument. Shin. The truth is that there are a lot of clues that point that he is the culprit. Pimple. I hate to agree with Broly, but you really deserve a beating, said Beerus, that more than anyone didn't want to agree with Broly, but it was impossible. That was something impossible to defend without suffering a cognitive dissonance. But like the average communist who argues that Cuba isn't a dictatorship, Shin tried to defend himself against the accusations. Wait. Okay. Zamasu may seem a bit extreme, but do we have enough evidence that he is the culprit? Broly, remember that years ago we... Of course, after hearing Trunks' story, I went to Universe 10 and began to monitor him to see if he is the culprit, since there are extreme clues about it. Especially when was you who told him about Goku. Look. Since then he has become obsessed with him and watches his fights in the GodTube every fucking day with a face full of envy, hatred, obsession and frustration, said Broly, showing another recording. This time one that showed how Zamasu looked like an obsessed. All the videos uploaded to GoTube by a certain Pussy Destroyer 69 in which Goku fought in the Tournament of Power organized by Kompa and Beerus. An irrefutable proof that Shin again tried to disprove. Yes, but that doesn't mean that. And then we have this one that happened recently. The son of a bitch has traveled to our universe looking for the Super Dragon Balls and also went to ask Zeno if it was possible to exchange his body with a mortal. Do you need more clues? Said Broly while projecting the occasion in which Zamasu went to threaten his lackey Zeno to know everything about the Super Dragon Balls. Wow. I think that, no more clues are needed. It's him. Shin said, who had no choice but to admit his complete defeat. He's certainly an idiot, just like everyone thought. And that idiocy that wasn't recognized from the first moment made the angry Broly explode again. Fuck guys. I only gave you a fucking task. I only gave you a fucking after giving you practically all possible hints. You just needed to put them together, use your fucking half Masuda brain. Which don't have brain. And research a little instead of sitting in my garden doing nothing. Shouted Broly, which turned into his most powerful form once again due to his extreme anger, destroying the shirt that Bulma had put on him earlier. His anger towards the useless gods of his universe increased exponentially, the same as his power and the poisoned words directed towards them that he launched at will. And although Shin had lost all will and right to defend himself, Beerus tried to excuse his uselessness. Broly, you have spy skills, but in our case. In your case. Broly had completely lost control and his eyes only radiated violence and the desire to kill subnormals to free the world of its stupidity. And obviously his eyes were solely focused on Shin and Beerus, and maybe Vegeta for some reason. Broly-sensei. Calm down, honey. Don't kill them, Dad, you will stain the floor. Shouted Gohan, Bulma and Bra, that stuck like limpets to Broly's rocky body to entice him to calm down. Something that more or less worked since Beerus and Shin were still alive. You know there are Dragon Balls on 2 planets in your district, you could gather them together and ask who the fuck is the culprit or at least obtain some method to find him. In your fucking universe there is a guy who knows everything, you could have asked him. But nothing of that would have been necessary if you used your brain to remember that a Kaioshin apprentice said that all humans should be exterminated. Shouted Broly again, while trying to cancel his transformation and calm down so as not to harm his wife, daughter, disciple and house. Shin and Beerus' lives were worth nothing compared to that possible damage. Man. Said like that. No wonder Broly always gets angry with the uselessness of the gods. Bulma said as she tried to dress her husband's top one more time. But she anticipated too much, his anger hadn't yet been quenched. Fuck. Do I have to do everything? I don't just save the day over and again while you don't make a shit. But you also suspect of me and question everything I do. If it wasn't for me, all of would be devoured by your own shit. Said Broly, finally unleashing all his accumulated rage, and breaking the shirt again due to his transformation. Although fortunately, it seemed that the storm had already ended. Broly had sat in his chair to try to calm down. Come on honey, calm down. It is the 12th shirt you destroy this week. Bulma said as she gave another shirt to Broly. Also to calm Broly before her husband, following his instincts, would cut Shin and Beerus' skulls to shit inside them. Therefore, she embraced his face against her body to make sure he doesn't kill them with his magic eyes. Excuse me Bulma. You know that so much uselessness drives me crazy, get by my side before they infect me. I need some peace of mind, said Broly as he embraced Bulma and tried to not make eye contact with Beerus, Whis, and Goku for some reason. Finally, the violent storm of anger and accusations ended. And like all storms after its ending, they left a trail of destruction and sequels in the places and people who suffered them. And this storm was no different in this regard, especially in Beerus's mind. Okay. Now I don't know if I was being paranoid or not, or if Broly planning something or not. Damn it, stop making me doubt like this. Thought Beerus, who no longer knew what to think and believe. Broly really want to help them? Was planning something against everyone? What the hell is he doing and thinking? Never Beerus. It's boring if you don't suspect anything, the key is suspense, thought Broly, hiding his malevolent smile behind Bulma's body, who was still hugging his angry amorous bear. Either way. Everything had become clear now. Beerus and Shin are lazy and useless, Broly had every reason to be angry, Zamasu is the culprit. And someone had to try to keep this chaos afloat, that was a mission tailor-made for Whis. Well. I think many things have become clear. Zamasu seems to be the culprit and... But suddenly his scepter lit up, interrupting his pro-productivity speech. What's wrong, Whis? Asked Beerus, who also saw the abnormality in his assistant's scepter. Something that used to mean something not very nice. I'm getting a transmission from somewhere else. Ah. It's from the Grand Priest. Answered Whis, giving some very good news. Maybe good news, but not for Beerus, who shouted, what? Did you say the Grand Priest? Hello Grand Priest. It's been a while since I've heard from you. Yes. Understood, very well, I'll be in ouch, said Whis, finishing the call with his father and explaining the content of the conversation. My. This is quite the problem indeed. What's wrong? Did he need something? Ached Beerus, as he shallowed some mellow cola to refresh himself after all this bullshit. Yes, he needs Goku, answered Whis, pointing at Goku. HRM? Me? Asked Goku, don't understanding why that dude needed him. A question that was immediately by Whis, without hesitation. Zeno-sama would like an audience with you. So you are to come to the royal place immediately. Puff. An unexpected news that made Beerus spit all the mellow cola over Shin. WH. What did you say? Beerus screamed in panic upon hearing that crazy news with extreme and terrifying implications. The time has finally come. The moment when my plan really begins, thought Broly, still hiding his sinister simile behind Bulma's embrace. Zeno-sama would like an audience with you. So you are to come to the royal place immediately, said Whis to Goku, who looked at him with a somewhat stupid face. Puff. An unexpected news that made Beerus spit all the mellow cola over Shin. WH. What did you say? Beerus screamed in panic upon hearing that crazy news with extreme and terrifying implications. Why does he want to meet me? I wonder if this has something to do with that tournament. Asked Goku, only thinking about his tournament and other fighting stuff. I haven't the faintest clue. Answered Whis, therefore they should find out together going there. A rather disturbing mystery, considering that the most important being in all the universes, a being who can erase universes with a wave of his hand, was interested in him. Therefore anyone would want to know why and pray that it was a good thing. However, Goku is different. At any moment Trunks could finish training and then they could go to his future to fight against a very strong guy. And if he had to go with Zeno, maybe he could miss that opportunity. He wanted to fight that guy, not to talk to Zeno. I'm kinda busy right now, so tell him I'll meet him some other time, answered Goku while trying to go to another place to continue training. An answer that maddened the already upset and concerned god of destruction, who was almost unable to put into words all his rage and fear. Why? Yo. You freaking moron. When the king of all things says he wants an audience with you immediately, you drop everything you're doing and you go. Stupid! Shouted Beerus, trying to restrain with all his might the urge to strange Goku until his tongue turned blue. However, he couldn't, since Zeno-sama wants to see him, surely alive. Therefore, Goku, seeing that he couldn't refuse that order, asked to Whis, is it far? Even for me, a one-way trip would take 2 days, Whis answered to Goku, knowing that he wouldn't like that answer. And was right. 2 days? I don't have the time to be running off to somewhere that ridiculously far away. We already know who supplanted me and destroyed Trunks' world, and there are only a few hours to go to fight him. I can't miss that. Shouted Goku, crying and pleading like a little child in the 90s forced him to go to school before the chapter of Dragon Ball Z finished. Don't make me repeat myself. Shut up and get going already. Shouted Beerus, playing his role as a responsible but choleric mother. That was without doubt a great predicament for Goku. If he spends 2 days to see Zeno-sama, it is very possible that he won't be able to fight Zamasu. However, if he doesn't go to see him, it is very likely that all the universes will be destroyed. He was unable to decide what to choose. Therefore, Goku begged the gods for someone to find a solution that would allow him to have both options at the same time. If it's alright with you, I can take you there. I can use instant transmission to get there, says Shin as he wiped the mellow cola that Beerus spat in his face. Really? Said Goku, very happy to discover that his prayers were answered. What? I can't believe it. Shin is finally useful for something. I didn't believe that I would live to see this day, even though I am immortal, said Broly, using all his sarcasm power to mock Shin. A sarcasm that hurt our incompetent supreme god, who tried to ignore Broly. And not only him. Goku, Whis, and above all Beerus tried to ignore all his hate to focus in their immediate great problem. Perfect. If you're with him, I'll be a lot more rally. Said Beerus until certain concern came to his mind doing moonwalk. One moment. Goku goes to see Zeno-sama, and Goku is an idiot with no manners who talks to Zeno-sama as if he were anybody. Something like that is very likely to anger Zeno-sama, and if Zeno-sama gets angry, phew, it is very likely that the cause of the supposed cataclysm isn't Broly for being Broly or Black Goku with his still unknown but known plan, but the real Goku due to his stupidity. A huge concern that changed his speech in no time. Whis. I want you to tag along too. Don't let him do anything stupid. Although it is almost impossible. The fate of the entire universe rests on your shoulders. Very well. And what about you, Lord Beerus? Said Goku, who wanted to know if all the gods would accompany him in this stupid trip. You kidding me? I'll pass on that. Answered Beerus, refusing to take that trip with the same passion with which he refuses to work. Coward, said Broly to Beerus, pointing out the reason why Beerus refused to go. Call me whatever you want. I don't care. By the way, Broly, can you put that spywike in Goku to see that he does? Responded Beerus, don't giving a fuck about Broly's criticism. Beerus was only interested in surviving and now know if he would die in few moments if Goku spoils everything in this trip. Not only are you a coward and a slacker, also an hypocrite. Spying people is no longer so horrible? If you want to see what Goku does at Zeno's house so much, you can go with them. Said Broly, criticizing Beerus once more that day. No way. Desperate moments require desperate measures, answered Beerus, without showing any kid of embarrassment. Doesn't matter whatever he said few minutes ago, his survival is more important than his integrity, moral, or pride. And neither Broly, Whis, or anybody could change that, no matter what they told him. Why don't you do, Broly? I'm curious to know what the palace of that Zeno is, said Bulma, either because pitted Beerus in some way and because really wanted to see how the king of all the universes lives. Can you stop deciding about my life without consulting me? Said Goku, that he felt like a small child in the doctor's office while his parents talked to the doctor about his problems in his name. All right. Come closer, Goku, said Broly, who gave in due to Bulma's intervention. Therefore, Goku, that at this point his opinion didn't matter to anyone, approached to Broly, who put his hand on his head and did something strange that almost no one understand. What have you done to him? Have you used that strange energy that only you and Gohan have? Asked Whis, that was aware about the existence of Nen and Kan. He didn't feel anything, but precisely why he sensed that Broly had made use of the strange ability that only he and his student knew how to use and feel. And obviously wanted to know what can he do with this obscure power. That's right. It is a subpart of my Nen/Kan ability. I have split a part of my domain created with Kan and I have hooked it in Goku. In this way, I can know at all times what happens around the 20 kilometers area that I have stuck to Goku wherever he is, and is also undetectable. Although I had already installed it in Goku for years, he said and thought Broly, explaining some of almost infinite abilities. That's why you always know when I do something bad, said Bra, that after hearing that explanation he was able to relate that ability to certain episodes in her life. Certain episodes in her life in which Broly called her on the phone a few seconds after committing an illegality to punish her. Yes, although I have more methods, said Broly, reminding others that he can read minds, see the future, past and present, and know things like Zeno. Basically, Broly was like Santa Claus, but without giving gifts and with bad intentions. It is a very strange and terrifying ability. Can you do something like that too, Gohan? Asked Whis to Broly's disciple. Until now the Nen and Kan were only interesting concepts in Whis' mind, but recently, the more he knew about that strange energy the more intrigued and concerned he became. No, nothing like that, each one of us can create his special ability based on his specific type of Nen and personality. It's quite difficult to explain, but my abilities are much simpler than Broly Senior, answered Gohan, who didn't like to much his ability like Kite of Hunter x Hunter. The Nen is quite an intriguing concept, said Whis to himself as he tried to understand the Nen with the new information he received. In some aspect it's inferior to divine power, however its proprieties and strange applications are very dangerous. So dangerous that not even an angel like him was able to detect and understand their powers. A very interesting topic that more than one wanted to talk about, how Beerus reminded to everyone that they should have other priorities now, less talk and more walk. Go quickly before Zeno-sama gets impatient. Yees, said Goku without much enthusiasm as he gathered around Whis and Shin. So when the three of them were finally together and holding hands, Kai, Shin teleported them to Zeno-sama Palace. Broly, can you broadcast what is happening with Goku in the same way that you have shown us the memories of Trunks? Asked Beerus and Bulma while they catched some popcorn and soda. Yeah. I have to work again as a projector, answered Broly as he pointed his third eye towards the screen and said, oh by the way, Gohan, dress up for training. I will need your help with Trunks. What? You need my help? Said the responsible, scientific and businessman Gohan, who didn't expect to do physical labor at this stage of his life. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kaioshin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips. If you liked the content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll stay here until next time.